I want to make sure we are tangible with the examples too. So knowing what the larger goal is for the family, that's going to be super
important. Your person, how are you bringing it to them so that they can get on the same page as well? I thought you was going to bring up the example of us moving down here as getting on the same page. Another way, an example.
That's another one. So when we went to move to Dallas, Texas, and this is very applicable to this situation. So I got a job offer for my previous 9 to 5.
We were engaged.
So we were already engaged at this point, and I got a job offer to move down to Dallas, Texas, right? 7 years ago. Life has been amazing. I brought the idea to my wife the first time. I said, hey, I got an idea. My job just gave me an offer to move down to Dallas, Texas. No, actually, there was no numbers on the table. It was just an idea, it was a thought. And I was like, what do you think about it? She said, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So I'm beating my chest. I'm like, this is a great idea. We need to do this, blah, 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 blah.
Absolutely not.
It wasn't, remember what we just said about the business? It was like, you have to plant the seed and it has to make sense for where you guys want to go as a unit, right? So the goal wasn't Texas. It wasn't to move to Texas. It absolutely wasn't move to Dallas.
Increase in pay.
So it was everything else that came with that move. So once I came back, I was like, okay, let's go visit. So we visited to see what it even looked like. Because you had an idea. We both had an idea of Texas.
You from New York. You say it all the time.
We from New York. We said that's not a reason for everything. We from New York.
But that mindset is kind of limited. Like you're exposed to so much culture, but limiting in that you think of cows and horses on the road in Texas.
Well,
I lie to you not, which I've seen. But it's more Fort Worth, you know what I mean? It's not the day-to-day. I can't look out my window and see that. I'm seeing the squirrels like everybody else.
So I'm giving you guys an example of us being on the same page as a couple. So I brought the idea first. Absolutely didn't flesh it out. She's like, absolutely not. We're not moving. Second time I was like, let's go visit. Okay, now the idea is just out there. Let's just go take a weekend. We visited. Okay, it's not that bad. The other conversation came around compensation. I said, okay, how much would it need? How much would we need to make it in order to feel comfortable? And that was like at least 6 figures. Okay, we got that. But that wasn't even the most important part. It was the life that it was going to be able to bring us when we moved.
Yeah.
So we started having a conversation about what does our life look like living in Dallas, Texas?
Yeah,
what does our life look like having these 4 units, right? Is the goal the 4 units or is the goal the lifestyle is going to bring us? So the Texas wasn't the goal. It was what it was going to be able to bring us. So we started talking about, all right, we get a bigger apartment.
Oh, we can have open concept kitchen.
Open concept kitchen. You mentioned you want to have a dog. We can't have dogs in New York City. Like most of the time. You can, but it's going to be really hard. She wanted to get a dog. And I was like, okay, we got a dog. We got an open concept kitchen. We got an apartment with a balcony. We got no noise. Crime is lessened. We got a pool. We started visiting complexes, right? The original goal was to move to Texas. But the larger goal was to provide for our family in a way that we didn't see until we started having that vision conversation. What is the vision of the actual...
Oh, you are so on point with that because now I think back to paying off debt. Just the same.
Oh my God, I'm in my bag, y'all.
All these examples we got. You asked for examples of how we get on the same page, and these are all real life examples that we've experienced. We getting on the same page. Paying off debt. I shut it down too. The conversation was why we got to pay off debt. We're paying our bills on time. We will pay off our debt like
we paid
the
off
rest of the world.
$114,000 in 23 months.
We'll pay it off like the rest of the world in 5 years, 10 years, whatever that looks like. Who knows? We'll just pay it off. Once again, Anthony had brought it. I shut it down. I'm like, no need. He's like, I think we could do it. You know, just listen to this podcast, hear these stories. I think we could do it. I'm like, listen, I don't see a need of us doing this. He's like, listen, if we could do this, then imagine all that money that we're putting towards debt, we could be spending it on what you want to do, travel and do other things. Now you're speaking my language. Maybe I need to listen more to hear, you know, what you got to say or what that would mean for us, right? Because at first it's like, it feels like, well, we're doing something that you want to do. It's not what I want to do, right? So it feels that way. Now it feels like, okay, this is impacting us. So let's have a further conversation on that. And that kind of took off. Then it became our thing and it took off in that way. But a lot of our life, now that I think about it, has been that compromise and getting on the same page, but figuring out how to get on the same page by making it work for each other and also just the communication between each other and also knowing your partner and knowing what they need maybe to feel comfortable to get on that page. That's the other thing. You can't just be telling me, well, we're going to move and it is what it is, right? But no, we're going to move and I still will be able to fly back and forth to come for the wedding stuff. You'll be able to stay here until it's time to move down. Then we'll have your mother and grandmother visit within a month. Like that's getting on the same page, but laying it out, right? Laying out a plan. So that would be another thing that I would say when it comes to getting on the same page.
Yeah, and one of those things about that debt freedom conversation was that, like, that travel part was huge for you. I said, when you get out of when we pay off this debt, we will be able to travel whenever you want, wherever you want, and I won't ask any questions. And it's been 3 years now, and I think I rarely ask questions at this point.
This is just 3, yeah.
Maybe 3 years. Time flies.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, you can. And our first trip was Maldives and Dubai.
Yeah.
That was one of your dream places. We went there, done.
Did it.
Game done. We went there. We was there for like 2 weeks. And we ran our cleaning business from Maldives and Dubai, and the cleaning business helped pay for it. And if you guys want to know how to start a 7-figure cleaning business without cleaning any houses, tap into Cleaning Business University. Link will be somewhere in the show notes. But it goes back to, and another thing you mentioned was, how can we both accomplish our goals and dreams at the same time? But I think you guys can go a lot further and faster if you guys do it together.
But you can accomplish independently, because it's a conversation that we have of, what is my goals and what can I do outside of just a family unit? Because we understand that everything doesn't have to be the family unit.
They're talking about the same exact goal. It's like, oh, I want to start a podcast. You want to start a podcast. It's like,
You're
okay,
like, just do that
start
together.
the podcast together.
Yeah.
We just talked to a couple, and literally we was like, let's just remove all excuses. What is the hardest part about doing this? And we broke it down, and it was really just, again, what is the vision for the family? How do you communicate? The husband was actually more of the constraint than the wife was, and he just was thinking about the technicals. And she didn't realize that he was thinking about the technical side of it.
Yeah.
Once he broke down the technical side, and I was like, let's just break this down and get him what he needs, they were able to go and record the episode that same day. So I think that's one of the most important things that you mentioned, is understanding the person that you're communicating with and what their style of understanding is.
Right. And I guess the last thing I would say is, those times that I say to you, well, we don't need to be on the same page. How do you combat that? Because not being on the same page, what you always say is, it's different with not being on the same page when we're talking about what would you do in this situation versus starting a business, right? Because your thing is, I don't ever want to start a business that you said don't do or you don't want to do, and then it fails, and it's kind of like, told you so, now all our money's down the drain.
Yep.
Right? That's your thought. But not everybody's like that. Understandable. Some people, like, I'm going to do it regardless. But how do you combat when I say, because I say it a lot, like, we don't got to be on the same page. How do you respond back to that generally?
Usually when you say we don't got to be on the same page, that's just a smoke screen. We always got to be on the same page. That's that.
That's not a smoke screen. That's you just saying that we have to be on
That's you throwing up a smoke screen, and I come back later.
That's us disagreeing, because I would be like, we can agree to disagree. You're like, no, but we need to develop this. And I think it's probably like, let's shut this conversation down.
Yeah.
We can come back and talk about it another time, and then we get on the same page.
Again, it just goes back to being in alignment with the larger family vision. And sometimes what I say is not in alignment. It would just be like an idea, and it's like, yeah, it's really not conducive to where we are, what we want to go.
What we want to do. Yeah.
Right? So it's like, all right, you had this idea to go do something, go to the moon, and it's like, well, we don't gotta be on the same page about that. Go to the moon if you really want to. It's like, what's the purpose of you going to the moon? Like, how is that helping our family advance forward?
What time you going? How much is it? Like, when you break everything down, and you're like, oh yeah, I don't
really
need to
want
go.
to go to the moon. So I think that's I mentioned earlier, is about what is the bigger vision for both of us. Even if we're going in parallel lines, and we aren't on the same track, but we're going in the same direction, you can still be in alignment with where you guys want to go. So if this end goal is eventually marriage, what does it look like for the engagement side? What do you need in order to be engaged? So you need to have two people who are in alignment. There probably should be some version of love in there, and it probably should be some family. None of that to me says business. Yes, I agree. Marriage is a business. We had an episode about this as well. Marriage is a hell of a business, because that is one of the biggest financial mistakes that you can make in life, or one of the biggest financial gains that you could have in life.
Fair.
Being married. So yes, it is a business. I agree. I don't disagree with that part at all. And it needs to be, more people need to think about this as a business decision.
And not just like,
having kids. Yeah. They don't think about kids as a business decision either, but that's the biggest financial mistake you can make with a partner as well. But I still like the energy. I still like the goals.
Absolutely.
I still like the alignment. I just don't like what the goal is. And then also, like you mentioned earlier, what's the meaning of the goal?
What's the meaning of the goal? That's my question. What's the meaning of the goal? Maybe you guys can answer that. Maybe they can answer on our podcast. We don't know. But that's the question that I have. What is the real meaning of the goal? And I think that helps to shift everything, basically. So that's it on our part. But I did want to remind you guys that we are hitting our 100th episode next week. So 100. Once again, I don't know if am I getting the balloons? We'll see. 100th episode this week and next week. And we're just trying to flesh out the ideas of how we can get our community involved and engaged in this 100th episode. It's been 2 years of us talking through your ears every single week, multiple times a week, because we drop an episode on Fridays too. If you didn't know, multiple times a week, and we just want to thank you. And we're excited to see where this thing continues to go and grow. Okay, go and grow.
Yes, and again, we spend so much time trying to make a living that you don't make a life. That's it, y'all. Appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you next week, and we are out.
Take care.
Peace.